Hey guys, tonight we're going small into the dark and narrow spaces of 18th century London. You're a child, perhaps 6 or 7 years old. Feel the rough, soot-stained clothes on your skin and the constant nagging chill of a London morning before dawn. Your world is about to shrink to the size of a 9-inch square flue, a dark vertical passage filled with choking dust and the terrifying possibility of getting stuck. Let's be honest. In this world, your small size is your only asset, and your life expectancy is brutally short. Most boys in your trade didn't live to see adulthood. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you truly enjoy what I do here. As always, I'd love to see where in the world you're listening from, so please drop your city and local time in the comments below. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You remember the cold. That is the first thing. Not the dramatic, biting cold of a deep winter, but the persistent, damp and soul-chilling cold of a London alley in the autumn, a cold that seeps into your thin clothes and settles in your bones. You are small, perhaps 6, maybe 7 years old. The years are a blur, marked not by birthdays but by the constant, gnawing presence of hunger. Your world has been the echoing, impersonal vastness of the parish workhouse, a place of gruel, rough blankets, and the constant, low murmur of other orphans. You have learned that being small and quiet is the best way to navigate this world, to avoid drawing attention, to simply endure. Today, you have been brought here, to this narrow, cobbled alleyway. The tall, grimy brick walls lean in, blocking out most of the sky, and the air smells of wet coal ash, stale gin, and something vaguely rotten. You are holding on to the hand of the parish beadle, a stern man in black whose job it is to manage the unwanted children of the parish. His hand is large, firm, and feels impersonal. A grip not of affection, but of duty. You clutch it tightly, your only anchor in a world that feels dangerously unsteady. You are wearing the rough-spun uniform of the workhouse, thin, patched trousers, a shirt that is more holes than fabric, and shoes that barely deserve the name. Then, he arrives. He seems to fill the narrow alleyway, a figure made of shadows and soot. He is tall, broad-shouldered, and everything about him is stained black. His rough coat, his thick leather breeches, even the skin of his face and hands are ingrained with the deep, permanent grime of his trade. He carries a bundle of long, thin brushes tied together, the tools of his profession, like a bundle of strange, dark branches. He smells powerfully of soot and something sharp, like old sweat. This is Mr. Grimes, the master sweep. He does not look at you, not at first. His business is with the beadle. Their voices are low, a murmur of transaction that you cannot quite understand. Words like parish, apprentice, contract, and keep drift down to you. You hear the clink of a few coins, a small, pathetic sound in the quiet alley. A piece of paper is produced, and a mark is made upon it. It is the official transfer of your small life from the care of the parish to the ownership of this man. It is all done with a strange, unnerving lack of emotion. There are no tears, no grand farewells, only a quiet, bureaucratic finality. It feels like the selling of a piece of parish property, not a child. You look up at the beadle's face, searching for some sign, some explanation. You see only the familiar, stern resignation of an overworked official, perhaps a flicker of pity in his eyes, but mostly just the weariness of a grim task completed. This is not an act of personal cruelty. It is simply the cold, economic reality of the parish, a final, necessary calculation in a world that has too many mouths and too little food. Then, the hand you are clutching so tightly lets go. A different hand takes yours. It is large, rough, and calloused, the fingers thick and stained black. It is Mr. Grimes's hand. His grip is firm, impersonal. the grip of a man taking possession of a new tool. "Come along, boy," he says, his voice a low, gravelly rumble. It is not unkind, not yet, but it holds no warmth, no comfort. It is simply a statement of fact. You belong to him now. You look back, one last time, at the beadle. He has already turned away, his duty done, leaving you alone with this dark stranger. The small, familiar world of the workhouse, with its known hardships and its grim routines, vanishes in that single silent turn. You are pulled forward, your small legs struggling to keep up with the master sweep's long strides. You stumble on the uneven cobblestones, but his grip is relentless. You are leaving the only street you have ever known, walking into a future that is as dark, as narrow, and as terrifyingly unknown as the inside of a chimney. As you are led away, a small, smooth stone you kept hidden in your pocket, a treasure found in the workhouse yard, falls unnoticed onto the grimy cobbles. Your last link to your past is severed. You do not cry. You have learned, in your short, hard life, that tears change nothing. You simply walk, placing one small, worn shoe in front of the other, your mind a numb, echoing void, the fragile shield of childhood indifference, the simple belief that the adults in charge have some measure of care for your well-being is a luxury you shed like a worn-out coat. You have just learned the first, most brutal lesson of your new life. You are small, you are powerless, you are property, and you are utterly, completely alone. The walk through London is a blur. Mr. Grimes's long strides force you into a stumbling trot, your small hand lost in his large, grimy one. You leave the slightly more respectable alleys where you were sold and plunge deeper into the rookery's heart, a maze of lanes so narrow and dark that the sky is just a forgotten rumour. The smells intensify, the stench of the open sewer that runs down the centre of the lane, the closeness of too many unwashed bodies crammed into too little space. Finally, he stops before a dilapidated tenement, its wooden front sagging, its windows like vacant eyes. He doesn't lead you to a door, but to a set of narrow stone steps leading down into the earth, into a darkness that smells powerfully of damp coal ash and something else, something stale and vaguely human. This is your new home. He pushes open a heavy, rough wooden door, and you step into the master's den. It is a cellar. The ceiling is so low that Mr. Grimes must stoop slightly. The only light comes from a single greasy tallow candle stuck to a rough wooden table, casting huge, dancing shadows on the damp brick walls. The floor is packed earth, cold and uneven beneath your worn shoes. The air is thick with the omnipresent, choking smell of soot, so dense it feels like you could scoop it with your hands. In one corner is a meagre fire smouldering in a crude hearth, offering little warmth but adding to the smoky haze. Sitting hunched by the fire, poking at it with a stick, is another boy. He looks up as you enter, his face pale and smudged with soot, making his eyes seem unnaturally large and white in the dim light. He is perhaps 10 or 11 years old, thin and wiry, his clothes as ragged as your own. He coughs, a deep, rattling sound that seems too large for his small chest. This is Jack, the older apprentice. He regards you not with curiosity or welcome, but with a kind of weary, cynical appraisal, the look of an old soldier sizing up a doomed new recruit. "Got another one then, master?" Jack asks, his voice a low, rough croak. "Aye," Mr. Grimes grunts, shoving you forward slightly. "This un's Tom. Looks small enough for the narrow flues in Mayfair, eh?" Jack looks you up and down again. "Small enough now," he mutters, followed by another racking cough. "Give I am 6 months." Mr. Grimes ignores him and turns his attention to you. His face, close up in the flickering candlelight, is a landscape of grime and hard lines. "Right then, boy," he says, his voice not overtly cruel, but stripped bare of any kindness. "Listen sharp. This is your life now. You sleep here. He points to a pile of rough burlap sacks in the darkest, dampest corner of the cellar. They are filled with the soot collected from the day's work. This is your bed. You wake when I tell you, before the sun comes up. You eat what I give you, when I give it. You do exactly as I say. No questions, no complaints. He takes a step closer, bending down slightly, his large, dark presence filling your small world. And the most important rule, the only rule that truly matters, you climb. When I point to a chimney, you go up. No matter how dark, no matter how narrow, no matter how hot, you climb. You refuse a climb. He lets the threat hang in the air, unfinished but perfectly understood. You have seen the casual violence of the London streets. You know what happens to those who disobey. He straightens up, his brief lecture concluded. He turns to Jack. Show, I am where the water bucket is. And see he don't eat all the crusts, mister. Grimes then lumbers up the cellar steps, leaving you alone with the older boy and the oppressive, smoky silence. Jack watches you for a moment, his expression unreadable. Then he lets out a short, harsh cough that shakes his thin frame. Well, Tom, he says, his voice raspy. Welcome to hell. He gestures vaguely around the squalid cellar. Best get used to the smell. It never leaves you. He points to a bucket of murky water in the corner. That's to drink. Don't take too much. He then points to a small, hard lump of dark bread on the table. And that's supper. Master gets the inside. We get the crusts. He offers no other words of comfort or advice. He simply turns back to the fire, hunching over it, lost in his own bleak world. You are left standing in the middle of the cold, damp cellar, the reality of your new life crashing down upon you with a physical force. This is your home. That pile of soot sacks is your bed. That grim, coughing boy is your only companion. And the dark, terrifying void of the chimney is your future. As the night deepens, you curl up on the rough, itchy sacks, pulling your thin clothes tight around you. The cellar is cold, the fire providing little warmth. The soot from the sacks works its way into your clothes, onto your skin, a constant, gritty irritation. You can hear the sounds of the city above the distant rumble of carriages. The faint shouts from a tavern sounds from a world you are no longer a part of. Closer, you hear the slow, steady drip of water down a damp wall, and the constant, painful-sounding rattle of Jack's cough in his sleep. You close your eyes, but sleep does not come. Your mind is a whirlwind of fear and confusion. You think of the workhouse, which now seems like a distant, almost comfortable memory. You think of the beadle's indifferent face. You think of the terrifying darkness of the chimneys Mr. Grimes pointed to as you walked here. You are trapped. You are owned. Your fear is so immense, so absolute, that it leaves no room for tears. It is a cold, hard stone in the pit of your stomach. You lie there in the darkness, breathing in the thick, alien smell of soot, and you understand that your childhood, brief and hard as it was, is now truly, definitively over. The first grey light of dawn has barely begun to filter through the cellar grating when Mr. Grimes's heavy boot kicks the pile of soot sacks where you are sleeping. Up, boy, he barks. Work don't wait for lazy bones. The transition from the uneasy oblivion of sleep to the cold, harsh reality of your new life is instantaneous and brutal. Your body aches from the unfamiliar hardness of your bed. The air you breathe is thick with the ever-present taste of soot. Jack is already awake, coughing quietly by the dying embers of the fire. There is no breakfast, only a crust of stale bread shoved into your hand as you are pushed up the cellar steps and out into the pre-dawn chill of the London streets. You follow Mr. Grimes through the sleeping city, Jack shuffling silently beside you. You are a small, dark trio, moving like shadows through the empty lanes. You carry the lighter bundle of brushes, Jack carries the heavier scrapers and cloths. Mr. Grimes strides ahead, his gaze fixed, a man with a destination. Your destination is a grand house in a wealthy square, its tall brick facade looming silent and imposing in the dim light. A sleepy-eyed servant girl lets you in through the back entrance, leading you into the heart of the house, the kitchen. It is a vast, cavernous room, dominated by a huge fireplace, large enough for a man to stand upright inside. But it is not this great hearth that is your target. Mr. Grimes points to a smaller opening in the wall nearby, the flue for the ovens. "Right then, Tom," he says, his voice flat, matter of fact. "Your turn, up you go." You stare at the opening. It is a small black square, no wider than your own shoulders. It looks less like an entrance and more like the mouth of a tomb. A wave of pure, primal terror washes over you, so cold and so absolute it makes your legs tremble. You simply cannot force your small body into that suffocating darkness. You hesitate, frozen in place. Mr. Grimes's face darkens. "Did you not hear me, boy?" he growls, taking a step towards you. I said, "Up." You still cannot move. The fear is a physical wall. Mr. Grimes lets out a sigh of exasperation. He grabs a handful of straw from a nearby basket and pushes it into the fireplace opening below the flue. He takes a burning ember from the kitchen fire with a pair of tongs. "Some boys need encouragement," he mutters. He holds the ember near the straw. "You can go up easy, or you can go up quick. Your choice." The threat is unmistakable. The terror of the dark, narrow space is now warring with the immediate, visceral terror of being burned. You look at Jack. He avoids your gaze, staring down at his own worn boots. There is no help to be found there. With a small, choked sob, you surrender. You drop to your knees and begin to force yourself into the opening. The darkness swallows you instantly. It is an absolute blackness, unlike any you have ever known. The air is thick, stale, and choked with the fine, gritty dust of old soot. It fills your nose, your mouth, the back of your throat. You instinctively try to breathe through your shirt, but it makes little difference. "Keep climbing," Mr. Grimes's voice bellows from the world of light below. "Use your knees and elbows, push yourself up." You begin to climb. It is not like climbing a ladder or a tree. It is like being buried alive, vertically. The flue is impossibly narrow. Your small shoulders scrape against the rough, uneven brickwork on either side. Your knees and elbows, despite the thin pads you were given, are instantly raw, abraded by the sharp edges of the bricks and the hard, caked-on soot. You push upwards with your knees, brace yourself with your elbows, and inch your way up, like a worm in the earth. The darkness is disorienting. You lose all sense of direction, all sense of how far you have come or how far you have yet to go. The only reality is the suffocating blackness, the burning in your lungs, and the pain in your scraped limbs. Panic begins to set in, a cold, tight fist clenching around your heart. The walls feel as if they are closing in. You cannot breathe. You try to cry out, but only a small, choked gasp escapes, swallowed by the oppressive silence of the flue. You stop moving, paralyzed by a claustrophobic terror so profound it steals your breath. "Keep moving, boy." Jack's rough voice echoes strangely from below. "Don't stop. You'll get stuck proper if you stop. Just keep pushing." His voice, though harsh, is a small human anchor in the terrifying darkness. You force yourself to move again, push with the knees, brace with the elbows, scrape upwards, another inch, another foot. After an eternity, your hand touches something different, not rough brick, but open air. You have reached the top. You push your head out of the chimney pot into the cold, grey morning sky. The relief is so immense, it is almost painful. You gulp in the clean, cold air, your lungs burning. You are high above the city, perched precariously on the rooftop. The world stretches out below you, a vast, silent panorama of smoking chimney pots and grey slate roofs. For a moment, looking down from this strange, dizzying height, you feel a bizarre sense of freedom. "All right, brush it down," Mr. Grimes shouts from below, his voice a distant sound. You take the small brush that was tied to your belt and begin the work, scraping the thick, flaky soot from the inside of the chimney, sending it cascading down into the darkness below. The climb down is faster, easier, fueled by the desperate desire to escape the darkness. You finally slide out of the opening and collapse onto the hearth in the kitchen, a small, trembling heap of black soot, coughing violently, your body covered in scrapes and bruises. You have done it. You have survived your first climb. Mr. Grimes inspects the pile of soot in the fireplace. "Aye, a decent haul," he grunts, showing no concern for your state. "Right then, next flue." You look up at him, then at the next dark, waiting hole. There is no praise, there is no rest. There is only the next chimney, and the one after that. Your terror has not gone away, but you have learned a new, more terrible lesson. Your fear does not matter, your pain does not matter. All that matters is that you climb. Your body is a tool, and this is your work. The bright, sunlit world of childhood is a distant, impossible dream. Your world is now the dark, the soot, and the endless, terrifying climb. The days settle into a grim, repeating pattern. Before dawn, the cold awakens you. You follow Mr. Grimes through the dark, silent streets. You face the terrifying black mouth of the chimney, and you climb. After the first traumatic ascent, the raw, paralyzing terror begins to dull slightly, replaced by a weary, constant apprehension. You learn the technique, the rhythm of knees and elbows, the way to navigate the bends and narrows. But the physical reality of the job, the constant, intimate contact with your true enemy, never lessens. That enemy is the soot. One morning, after a particularly difficult climb, Mr. Grimes performs a small, almost formal ritual. He hands you your tools. They are not gifts. They are the meager equipment provided by the master to his apprentice, the bare minimum required by custom, if not by law. First is the cap. It is a simple, close-fitting cap made of rough, thick cloth designed to be pulled down low over your forehead. Keeps the worst of the clinker from your eyes. Mr. Grimes grunts. You put it on. It is stiff and smells faintly of old sweat and stale soot. Next are the pads. Small squares of worn leather, crudely stuffed with rags, with straps to tie them around your knees and elbows. "Might save ye some skin," he says, with no hint of concern in his voice. You strap them on. They are thin, inadequate shields against the sharp brick corners and the constant, grinding abrasion of the climb. Finally, he gives you the scraper. It is a simple triangular piece of metal attached to a short wooden handle. This is not for your protection. This is for the work itself. This is the tool you will use to dislodge the thick, tarry buildup of creosote high in the flues, the very substance that chokes the city's chimneys and threatens to set its houses ablaze. You look at these pathetic implements, the flimsy cap, the thin pads, the crude scraper. This is your uniform. This is your armor against a world of darkness and filth. You learn quickly that your true uniform, the one you can never take off, is the soot itself. It is a substance unlike any other dirt you have known. It is not dry and dusty. It is fine, greasy, and incredibly invasive. It clings to everything it touches with a stubborn, oily persistence. After your first climb, you are coated in it, a small black creature emerged from the earth. Mr. Grimes shows you how to brush the worst of it off your clothes, but it is a futile gesture. The fine particles have already worked their way deep into the rough weave of the fabric. It gets onto your skin, under your fingernails, into the lines of your palms. At the end of the day, you are allowed a bucket of cold water to wash, but the soot resists. It smears into a grey paste, leaving your skin perpetually stained, ingrained with the mark of your trade. You learn to live with a constant, low-level itchiness, a feeling that your own skin is a foreign, dirty garment. It gets in your eyes. The small cap offers minimal protection. As you climb, the soot rains down, finding its way past the cloth. Your eyes sting, water, and burn. You learn to climb with your eyes squeezed half shut, navigating the darkness more by touch than by sight. You constantly feel a gritty, abrasive presence under your eyelids. Worst of all, it gets in your lungs. Inside the flue, the air is thick with it. Every breath is a gasp of fine, acrid particles. You learn to tie a rag over your mouth, but it quickly becomes clogged and useless. You cough constantly, a dry, hacking cough that starts during the climbs and soon follows you into your sleep. You hear Jack coughing in the cellar at night, a deep, rattling, endless sound. And you know, with a child's simple, terrifying certainty, that this is your future too. It even gets into your food. Your meager ration of bread and cheese is often eaten with hands still black from the chimneys. The soot becomes a flavour, a gritty, bitter seasoning on every mouthful, and it is your bed. You return to the cellar each night, exhausted, aching, and filthy, and you collapse onto the sacks filled with the day's collection of soot. It is a soft bed, in a way, but it is a bed that coats you anew in the very substance you have spent the day battling. You wake in the morning with your hair matted, your face streaked, already wearing the uniform before the workday has even begun. You look at your flimsy cap, at your worn leather pads. They are a joke, a cruel parody of protection. They are a master's way of pretending that something is being done to mitigate the dangers, while knowing full well that they are utterly inadequate. The true tools of your trade are your own small bones, your own scraped skin, your own slowly blackening lungs. Your small body is the brush. You are the living instrument sent into the darkness to clean the passages of the city's great smoking machine. And the price of that cleaning is that you are becoming indistinguishable from the filth itself. The soot is not just on you, it is becoming a part of you. Your life is no longer measured in days, but in chimneys. Each sunrise brings not the promise of a new beginning, but the certainty of another dozen dark, suffocating ascents. The world has shrunk to a simple, brutal, and endlessly repeating cycle. Wake, walk, climb, eat, if you are lucky, walk, sleep, repeat. This is the daily grind. The day begins in the absolute blackness before dawn. There is no gentle awakening. There is only the rough shake of Mr. Grimes's hand on your shoulder, or the jarring kick of his boot against the soot sacks where you lie. Time, boys. Sky's getting grey. You sit up, your small body instantly protesting. Every muscle aches from the previous day's climbs. Your knees and elbows are a map of raw weeping scrapes. A deep, hacking cough rattles in your chest. A cough that now feels like a permanent part of your breathing. You pull on your stiff, soot-impregnated clothes in the frigid air of the cellar. There is no fire this early, no warmth. Jack is already moving. A silent grey shadow in the darkness, his own cough, a low, constant counterpoint to yours. A single dry crust of bread is shoved into your hand. Breakfast. You gnaw on it as you stumble up the steps and out into the street. The walk is the first trial of the day. London is still asleep, its windows dark squares in the grey facades. The only other souls stirring are the milkmaids with their clanking pails and the first of the market carts rumbling towards Covent Garden. You and Jack trudge behind Mr. Grimes, your small legs struggling to keep pace with his long strides. You walk for miles, sometimes west, towards the grand squares of Mayfair and Street James's, where the chimneys are tall and numerous, sometimes east, towards the ancient tangled warren of the city itself. The walk alone is exhausting, your body already weary before the real work has even begun. You arrive at the first house as the city is just beginning to stir. A bleary-eyed servant lets you in through the back entrance into the vast, still cold kitchen. Mr. Grimes confers with the cook, his voice loud and rough, establishing his authority. Then, he points to the first chimney. Right then, Tom, this one's yours. Looks a straight run. The first climb of the day is often the worst. Your body is stiff, the muscles cold. The flue is filled with the night's chill, the soot clinging damp and heavy to the bricks. You force yourself into the darkness, the familiar, suffocating pressure instantly enveloping you. You begin the slow, painful ascent, the rhythm of knees and elbows, a grim, mechanical beat. Scrape, push, breathe, or try to. Scrape, push, breathe. You reach the top, brush the flue down, and descend, emerging into the kitchen covered in a fresh layer of cold, damp soot. But there is no rest. Mr. Grimes points to the next chimney, perhaps in the dining room, or the great hearth in the main hall. Jack is already at work on another flue in a different part of the house. The middle of the day is a blur, a monotonous succession of climbs. Each chimney is a slight variation on the same theme of darkness and pain. Some are straight and relatively easy. Others are narrow, winding, filled with sharp bends that tear at your clothes and skin. Sometimes you climb a flue that is still warm from the morning's fire, the heat radiating from the bricks, making the air thick and almost impossible to breathe. Your meager midday meal, if there is one, is another crust of bread, perhaps a piece of cheese if Mr. Grimes is feeling generous, eaten quickly while sitting on a pile of soot sacks in a cold back alleyway. There is no time to rest, no time to recover. The master sweep has contracts to fulfill, chimneys to clean before the wealthy homeowners begin their day in earnest. As the afternoon wears on, your body begins to fail. Your arms and legs feel like lead. Your scraped knees and elbows burn with a fiery agony. Your cough becomes more persistent, each spasm sending a jolt of pain through your chest. You move slower now, your ascents more hesitant. Mr. Grimes's impatience grows. Faster, boy, he shouts up the flue. Do you think I pay you to sleep in there? You try to move faster, but your exhausted body refuses to obey. You see the same weariness in Jack. His movements slower, his face paler beneath the grime. The walk home in the late afternoon is a special kind of torture. Your body screams for rest, but you must keep pace with Mr. Rest. Grimes. Often now carrying a heavy sack of the day's collected soot over your shoulder. The streets are alive now, filled with the noise and bustle of the city, but you are barely aware of it, lost in a fog of pure physical exhaustion. You finally arrive back at the cellar as dusk is falling. You help unload the soot, the final task of the day. Your supper is another crust, perhaps a small bowl of thin, greasy soup, if there are leftovers from Mr. Grimes's own meal. Then, blessed oblivion, you do not undress, you do not wash. You simply collapse onto your bed of soot sacks, surrendering to a sleep so deep it is almost like death. Your body is a small broken machine, pushed far beyond its limits day after day after day. You know, with the simple, unquestioning certainty of a child that you cannot sustain this pace forever. Your small body's limited endurance is locked in a losing battle against the relentless physical demands of the trade. You see Jack, just a few years older than you, already half broken, his lungs filling with the same dust that now fills yours. You are living on borrowed time, and as you fall into the deep, dark well of sleep, your only desperate hope is that tomorrow might somehow be different, though you know, in your heart, that it will not. Winter arrives, not gradually, but with a sudden, icy fist. The London air turns sharp, the sky a permanent, leaden grey. The damp cold of the cellar becomes a constant, gnawing presence. But the worst part of the winter is the work itself. The chimneys, now in constant use, are hotter, dirtier, and the soot is thicker, stickier, and the cold makes your small, underfed body stiffer, clumsier. The risk of a mistake, a moment of lost concentration, grows with every freezing dawn. The house is a grand one, in a square near Hyde Park. The chimney is old, complex, a warren of unexpected angles and narrowing passages built in a less regulated age. Mr. Grimes eyes it with a look of professional calculation. "This un's a tricky devil, Tom," he says, pointing to a flue that serves a small upper-floor drawing room. "Mind the bend halfway up. Sharp turn. Don't get your shoulders caught." You nod, the familiar knot of apprehension tightening in your stomach. You pull your cap down, check your worn pads, and begin the ascent. The lower part of the flue is wider than usual, and you make good progress. Your movements practiced, almost automatic now. Knees up, elbows braced, push. Knees up, elbows braced, push. The darkness is absolute, the air thick with the powdery, acrid soot. Then you reach the bend. It is sharper than you expected, a sudden, awkward twist in the brickwork. You try to maneuver yourself around it, twisting your small body, trying to find the leverage to push upwards. Your left shoulder scrapes hard against the rough brick. You push again, and then you stop. You are wedged. Your shoulder is caught fast against one side of the flue, your back pressed hard against the other. You try to wriggle, to shift your weight, but there is no give. The chimney holds you in a tight, unyielding embrace. Panic flares, hot and blinding, in your chest. You are suspended in total darkness, unable to move up or down. The rough brick presses against your face. The soot, thick and cloying, seems to steal the very air from your lungs. You try to shout, but only a small, choked gasp escapes. You are trapped, buried alive in the heart of a brick mountain. You thrash, a small, desperate animal caught in a snare, but your movements only wedge you tighter. The panic rises, a roaring in your ears that drowns out everything else. You can feel the walls closing in, the darkness pressing down on you. You are going to die here, in this suffocating black hole. "Tom, what's wrong? Why have you stopped?" Mr. Grimes's voice bellows from the distant world below, distorted and echoing up the flue. You try to answer, but your throat is tight with terror. Only a weak, pathetic whimper comes out. "He's stuck, Master." Jack's voice cuts through your panic, sharper, closer. He must have entered the fireplace below. He's stuck fast at the bend. You hear Mr. Grimes curse, a low, angry sound. "Blast the boy, if he's damaged the flue." His voice trails off, his concern not for you but for the property. Then Jack's voice comes again, closer now, calmer, steadier. "Tom, listen to me. Stop your thrashing. You'll only make it worse. Can you hear me, Tom?" You manage a small, choked sob in reply. "Right then," Jack's voice continues, a low, calming rhythm in the terrifying darkness. "Listen sharp. Which shoulder is caught? The left?" You grunt an affirmation. "Right. Now, slowly, mind. Slowly. Try to bring your right knee up high as you can. Push against the front wall with your foot. Give yourself some space. Easy now, easy." You follow his instructions, your small body trembling. You push with your right foot. You feel a tiny, almost imperceptible shift. "Good. Now, try to twist your body, just a little. Pull your left shoulder down and in, away from the brick. Small movements, boy, small movements." You twist, pulling your trapped shoulder inwards with an agonizing effort. You feel a sudden scraping release. You are free. You don't wait. You scramble upwards, desperate for the sky, for the light. You push yourself out of the chimney pot and collapse onto the steep slant of the roof, gasping, sobbing, your body covered in a mixture of soot, sweat, and tears. You lie there for a long moment, shivering uncontrollably, the cold air a blessed relief on your face. You have survived. But the terror of the moment lingers, a cold residue in your soul. You look down at the vast, indifferent city below. You think of the chimney, the unforgiving geometry of brick and stone that nearly became your tomb. Your physical vulnerability has never been clearer. Your small size is your only asset in this trade, but it is also your greatest danger. The very spaces you are forced into are perfectly designed to trap you, to crush you. Jack's voice, his cynical but vital guidance, saved you today. But you know, with a chilling certainty, that the chimney is always waiting. And next time, there may be no escape. January 1780 seconds. The heart of winter. London is a city locked in ice. A bitter, relentless cold has descended, turning the muddy streets to iron and the breath in your lungs to a sharp, painful crystal. For the wealthy in their great houses, this means roaring fires in every hearth, a cheerful defiance against the season. For you, it means the busiest, most dangerous time of the year. The chimneys, working constantly, become clogged with thick, tarry soot faster than ever. And the risk of a chimney fire, a catastrophic event that can burn a house down in minutes, hangs heavy in the smoky air. Mr. Grimes is driven by the season's urgency. More fires mean more dirty chimneys, and more dirty chimneys mean more shillings in his pocket. His usual impatience sharpens into a kind of frantic, greedy haste. He pushes you and Jack harder, taking on more jobs per day than is safe or sensible. You arrive at a large, imposing house in Bloomsbury Square. The air inside is thick with the warmth of multiple fires and the smell of roasting meat. You have already cleaned 3 chimneys in this house: the kitchen, the main hall, the master's study. Now, Mr. Grimes points to the last one, in a small, unused sitting room. "Right, Tom," he says, his breath pluming in the cold air that follows you in from the street. "This one's yours. Quick now, we've 2 more houses afore noon." Jack, who has just come down from another flu, his face blacker than usual, shakes his head almost imperceptibly. He touches the brickwork around the fireplace opening. Even through his thick gloves, you see him wince slightly. "Still hot, master," he says, his voice low. "Fire was only put out an hour ago by the look of it." Mr. Grimes waves a dismissive hand. "Nonsense. Plenty cool enough for the likes of him." He turns his cold gaze on you. "Don't be listening to old wives' tales, boy. A bit of warmth'll do you good on a day like this. Now, up you go, sharp." You look from Jack's worried eyes to Mr. Grimes's impatient scowl. You know the danger. You have heard the stories. Boys horribly burned, their skin fused to the hot bricks, their cries silenced by the roar of the flames, rekindled by their own small bodies disturbing the embers. But you also know the greater, more immediate danger of refusing your master's command. With a heart like a cold stone in your chest, you drop to your knees and push yourself into the flue. The difference is immediate and terrifying. This is not the familiar, neutral cold of a dormant chimney. This is a living, breathing heat. The air is thick, dry, and carries the sharp, acrid smell of hot soot and burning creosote. It sears your lungs with every breath. You begin to climb, but your movements are hesitant, clumsy with fear. The bricks themselves radiate a deep, penetrating warmth. It is not a comforting warmth. It is a menacing one, the heat of a slumbering beast. Your thin knee pads offer little protection. Every time your bare skin brushes against the brick, it is a shock, a jolt of pain that makes you cry out. Higher up, the heat intensifies. You are moving closer to the heart of the chimney's recent fire. You can feel the warmth not just on your skin, but inside you, a suffocating, internal heat. Sweat breaks out on your body, instantly mixing with the thick soot to form a vile, gritty paste that clogs your pores and makes your skin scream with irritation. You reach a bend, and your hand brushes against a section of brick that is not just warm, but truly hot. You snatch it back with a small cry, the skin already reddening, stinging. You are moving through an oven. The greatest fear is not just the heat of the bricks, but the embers. You know that deep within the layers of soot, hidden pockets of glowing coals can linger for hours after a fire has been extinguished. A single wrong move, a clumsy scrape of your brush, could dislodge one of these embers, sending it cascading down onto the thick, flammable soot below you, or worse, onto your own soot-saturated clothes. You could become a human torch, trapped in this vertical furnace. You climb with an almost unbearable slowness now, every movement a calculated risk. Your breath comes in short, shallow gasps. The air is almost unbreathable. Your mind is a storm of pure, primal terror. Finally, after an eternity of heat and fear, you reach the top. You push your head out into the blessedly cold, clean air, gulping it down like a drowning man. You quickly brush the upper flue, your movements frantic, desperate only to begin the descent. The climb down is a controlled fall, sliding as quickly as you dare, the heat still radiating around you. You tumble out onto the hearth, your body slick with sweat and soot, your breath coming in ragged, painful sobs. Your hands and knees are bright red, stinging with the first signs of serious burns. Mr. Grimes looks down at you, then peers up the flue you just descended. He sees no flames, smells no rekindled fire. "See?" he says, his voice rough with satisfaction, ignoring your obvious distress. "Told you it were fine. Just needed a bit of nerve." He kicks your foot, not hard, but with a clear, impatient command. "Get up, boy. We're burning daylight. Next house." You slowly, painfully pull yourself to your feet. You look at your reddened hands, at the angry skin on your knees. You have survived again. But you understand now, with a chilling certainty, that your master's drive for profit is a force more dangerous than any chimney. He will risk your life, gamble with your small body, for the sake of a few extra shillings. The core conflict is stripped bare. His greed versus your survival. And you know without a shadow of a doubt which one he values more. Spring, 1780 seconds. The worst of the winter's cold has finally begun to loosen its grip on London. A weak, watery sunlight occasionally finds its way down into the narrow alleys, and the air, while still smoky, carries the faintest hint of damp earth and new growth. But the change of seasons brings little relief to your life. The chimneys still need cleaning, mister. Grimes's demands are still relentless. And a new, more insidious companion has joined you in the darkness of the flues and the damp chill of the cellar. It is the cough. You first become truly aware of it through Jack. His cough has always been there, a constant, rasping punctuation mark to his cynical pronouncements. But now, it is changing. It is deeper, harder, more persistent. It is a wet, rattling sound that seems to come from the very bottom of his lungs, a sound that shakes his thin frame with a frightening violence. You see him turn away frequently, spitting a thick, dark phlegm onto the earthen floor of the cellar. Sometimes, the coughing fits are so severe they leave him breathless, leaning against a wall, his face pale and beaded with sweat beneath the grime. Mr. Grimes ignores it. A cough is simply part of the trade, like scraped knees or burned hands. It is the sound of a working sweep. But you, who sleep beside Jack on the soot sacks, who hear that terrible, tearing sound rack his body in the quiet of the night, begin to feel a new kind of fear. It is not the sharp, immediate terror of getting stuck or burned. It is a slow, creeping dread, the fear of something unseen and inescapable. Then, you begin to notice it in yourself. It starts subtly, a tickle in the back of your throat after a particularly dirty climb. A dry, hacking cough that brings up nothing but the taste of old, cold soot. At first, it comes and goes, but as the weeks pass, it becomes more frequent, more insistent. You find yourself coughing when you wake in the morning, coughing as you walk the cold streets, coughing as you try to eat your meager meal. It is the physical sensation that is the most disturbing. You feel as if your lungs are permanently coated in a fine, gritty layer of the very substance you spend your days scraping from the city's walls. Every breath feels shallow, difficult. Sometimes, especially after a long day of climbing, you feel a tight, painful constriction in your chest, as if a hand is squeezing your ribs. The air itself, the most basic element of life, feels like an enemy, each inhalation bringing a fresh assault of the fine, sharp particles that irritate and inflame. You learn to live with the taste of soot. It is always there, a bitter, metallic tang on the back of your tongue. It flavors your food, your water, even the damp cellar air you breathe while you sleep. You forget what it feels like to draw a truly clean, deep breath. The cough becomes the grim chorus of your shared existence in the cellar. In the quiet hours of the night, the small, dark space is filled with the sound. Jack's deep, rattling hacks, punctuated now by your own shallower, drier coughs. It is a duet of slow, internal decay. Sometimes, on a rare Sunday when Mr. Grimes allows you a few hours of freedom, you might walk to one of London's green parks. You stand under a tree, away from the city's constant pall of smoke, and you breathe. The air feels shockingly clean, almost unnaturally thin. For a few precious moments, the tightness in your chest seems to ease. But the relief is fleeting. As soon as you return to the familiar streets, to the cellar, the coughing begins again. You lie on your bed of soot sacks, listening to Jack's laboured breathing beside you. You feel the familiar, irritating tickle building in your own chest, and you try to suppress the cough, knowing it will only lead to another painful spasm. You are just a child, but you understand, with a clarity that needs no words, that something is fundamentally wrong. Your body is fighting a battle against an enemy it cannot see, an enemy you breathe in with every gasp. You think of the fine dust, the greasy flakes of soot you scrape from the chimneys. You think of how it gets under your nails, into your hair, onto your skin, and you realize, with a cold, sinking feeling, that it is also getting inside you, deep inside, coating your lungs, poisoning you slowly, inevitably from within. The immediate dangers of the climb, the getting stuck, the falling, the burning, are terrifying. But this quiet, internal and relentless assault, this feels like a death sentence being written, one cough at a time. You emerge from the darkness of the drawing room flue, blinking in the relatively bright light of the house, your body coated in the familiar, greasy film of soot. You expect the usual routine: brush yourself down as best you can, gather your tools, and follow Mr. Grimes out the back door to the next job. But today is different. "Wait here, boys," Mr. Grimes grunts, wiping his own hands on a dirty rag. "Master wants a word about the main kitchen chimney afore we leave." He disappears through a green baize door, leaving you and Jack standing awkwardly in a grand carpeted hallway. After a few minutes, a stern-looking housekeeper in a crisp white cap and apron appears. She wrinkles her nose slightly at the sight of you, two small black figures marring her polished floor. "Don't just stand there gawping," she says sharply, though not unkindly. "Come along to the kitchen, and mind you don't touch anything." She leads you down a flight of stairs into a world you have only ever glimpsed from the outside, the below-stairs domain of a great London house. You step into the kitchen, and the difference between this world and your own is a physical blow. The room is immense, a cavern of warmth, light, and astonishing activity. The air, instead of being thick with the cold, acrid smell of soot, is heavy with the most wonderful aromas you have ever encountered. The rich scent of roasting meat from a huge open hearth, the sweet smell of baking bread, the sharp tang of onions being chopped, the fragrant aroma of herbs hanging in bunches from the ceiling. Compared to the damp, dark confines of your cellar, this place is a palace. Great copper pots and pans hang gleaming from hooks, reflecting the warm light of the fire. A long, scrubbed wooden table dominates the center of the room, piled high with vegetables, carrots, turnips, cabbages, mounds of impossible color and life. And the warmth. A massive fire roars in the hearth, radiating a heat so intense it feels like a summer day. You instinctively edge closer to it, soaking in a level of comfort your body has never known. The kitchen is alive with people, a bustling, hierarchical society all its own. Cooks in white aprons move with speed and purpose, chopping, stirring, tasting. Young scullery maids scrub furiously at mountains of dirty dishes in a stone sink. Footmen in livery hurry through, carrying trays laden with food up to the unseen world above. There is shouting, laughter, the clang of pots, the sizzle of fat in a pan, a symphony of productive, purposeful life. You and Jack stand near the door, small, silent, and utterly out of place. You are acutely aware of your own filth, of the black handprints you might leave if you leaned against a wall. The servants, busy with their own tasks, mostly ignore you. You are like ghosts, invisible intruders from a different, dirtier reality. Your eyes are drawn to the food. You see a haunch of beef turning slowly on a spit over the fire, its juices dripping and hissing. You see pies cooling on a rack, their pastry golden brown. You see bowls of eggs, flagons of milk, things you only dimly remember from a life before Mr. Grimes. The sheer, casual abundance of it all is a physical ache in your empty stomach. Jack nudges you, his expression cynical. "See all that?" he whispers, his voice raspy. "That's what keeps us climbing. Their fancy dinners need clean chimneys." You understand what he means. This world of warmth, of light, of incredible, unimaginable plenty is directly connected to your own dark, cold, and hungry existence. Their comfort depends on your suffering. You clean the conduits that carry away the smoke from their fires, the smoke from their cooking, but you will never taste the feast. You are an essential part of their world, yet you are completely, irrevocably excluded from it. You stand there in the magnificent warm kitchen, a small soot-stained ghost, and the immense unbridgeable gulf between their life and yours has never felt so vast, so absolute. You are below stairs, yes, but you are also beneath them, a creature from a lower, dirtier world, allowed into their palace only to perform the necessary, unseen labor that makes their civilized life possible. The grand kitchen, with its warmth and its impossible bounty, is a fleeting memory. Back in the cold, hard reality of the London streets, the memory of those rich smells and bustling sounds fades, leaving only the persistent ache in your muscles and the familiar, gritty taste of soot in your mouth. You return to the cellar, to the meager rations, and to the endless, unfeeling routine. Hope is a dangerous thing for a climbing boy. It makes the cold harder, the hunger sharper, the darkness even more absolute. Weeks pass, blurring into a monotonous succession of climbs. Your body continues its slow, painful adaptation to the relentless demands. You are thinner, your movements more precise, more efficient in the narrow flues. You are becoming what Mr. Grimes wants you to be. A tool. One afternoon, you and Mr. Grimes are finishing a job in a particularly large house, a sprawling mansion in Westminster. You have just completed a long, difficult climb, one that left your chest burning and your arms trembling. As usual, you drop from the flue onto the hearth, a small black heap, coughing violently. Mr. Grimes is busy gathering his tools, grumbling about the poor quality of the soot. You slowly pull yourself up, your knees and elbows screaming in protest. You shuffle towards the warmth of the still glowing embers in the fireplace, trying to gather some heat into your freezing bones. You sit, hunched over, exhausted, your head buzzing with the faint dizziness that often accompanies a difficult climb. A quiet sound makes you look up. A young housemaid stands near the kitchen door, observing you. She is perhaps 16 or 17, her hair neatly tucked under a plain white cap, her apron impeccably clean. Her name, you later learn, is Betsy. Unlike the stern housekeeper or the other busy servants, her gaze is not one of disdain or indifference. There is a flicker of something else in her eyes, a soft, almost imperceptible trace of pity. She hesitates for a moment, glancing nervously towards the door where Mr. Grimes has just disappeared. Then, with a quick, decisive movement, she crosses the kitchen to where you sit. "Here," she whispers, her voice soft and kind, a sound so unfamiliar it makes you flinch slightly. In her hand, she holds a small cloth-wrapped parcel. It smells wonderful. She presses it into your soot-stained hand. It is warm, surprisingly heavy. "Don't tell the master," she says, her eyes wide with a shared secret. "He'd box my ears." Before you can fully process what has happened, she quickly retreats, melting back into the shadows near the pantry door, her expression returning to one of busy anonymity. Mr. Grimes's voice bellows from the hallway, calling for her, and she scurries away, leaving you alone. You look down at the parcel in your hand. You slowly unwrap the cloth. Inside is a small, warm meat pie. It is a simple thing, a leftover from the servant's meal perhaps, but to you, it is a treasure beyond imagining. The pastry is flaky and golden. The meat inside is rich and savoury. You bring it to your nose, inhaling the delicious aroma. It smells of warmth, of home, of everything you have been denied. You hesitate for a moment, a lifetime of scarcity making you wary. Should you save it? But the hunger is too strong, the temptation too overwhelming. Slowly, carefully, you take a bite. The taste is exquisite. It is warm, juicy, flavorful. It melts in your mouth, a burst of richness that fills your empty stomach and sends a wave of pure, unadulterated pleasure through your tired body. You eat slowly, savoring every crumb, wiping your mouth with the back of your soot-covered hand, leaving a dark smudge. It is the most delicious thing you have ever tasted. The pie is gone too quickly, but the warmth it leaves behind is not just in your belly. It is a warmth that spreads through your chest, a feeling that is almost as nourishing as the food itself. It is the warmth of a simple act of human kindness. You look towards the pantry door where Betsy disappeared. She had nothing to gain from this. Indeed, she risked punishment from the housekeeper, or even Mr. Grimes, had she been caught. Her compassion was pure, uncalculated, a fleeting spark in the vast, indifferent darkness of your world. In your short life, you have known only transaction. You are sold for money, you climb for sustenance, you endure for survival. Kindness, true, unearned kindness, is a foreign concept. It is a profound, unforgettable moment. It reminds you that not everyone in this harsh city is consumed by greed or indifference. It reminds you that there is a different kind of human connection, one based not on necessity, but on simple, shared empathy. The effect is not a sudden, dramatic change. You are still a chimney sweep's apprentice. Your life is still hard, still dangerous, still short. But for a brief, precious moment, you have been seen. You have been acknowledged, not as a tool, not as a smudge, but as a small, suffering human being. And that small act, that simple, warm meat pie, will glow like a distant ember in the dark, cold corners of your memory for a very long time. You emerge from the chimney pot, coughing, spitting black dust, your body aching from the confined struggle. Below you, somewhere in the unseen labyrinth of the house, Mr. Grimes shouts for you to get on with the brushing. But up here, for a few precious, stolen moments, you are in a different world. A secret world that only you and the birds know. The rooftop world of London. You sit on the steep slant of the slate roof, your small legs braced against the chimney stack, catching your breath in the cold, clear air. From this height, the city is transformed. It is no longer the claustrophobic maze of narrow, muddy streets and leaning walls. It is a vast, rolling ocean of rooftops, stretching away in every direction, a landscape of grey slate, red tiles, and countless smoking chimney pots. It is a strangely beautiful sight. The smoke from 1,000 hearths rises in thin, wavering columns into the pale sky, creating a hazy, shifting canopy over the city. You can see the familiar landmarks from a new perspective: the distant, elegant spire of a Wren church, the dark, solid bulk of the Tower of London, the silver ribbon of the Thames winding its way through the heart of it all. The sounds of the city reach you differently up here. The constant roar of the streets, the rumble of carts, the shouts of vendors, the clang of workshops is softened, muffled by the distance, becoming a low, anonymous hum, like the sound of the sea heard from a high cliff. It is the sound of a world you are momentarily above, removed from its immediate chaos and grime. There is a sense of freedom here that is intoxicating. You are no longer trapped in the suffocating darkness of the flue or the squalid confines of the cellar. You are perched high above it all, with the wind in your hair and the vast open sky above you. You watch the pigeons wheeling and circling, their effortless flight a stark contrast to your own earthbound struggle. You feel a kinship with them, fellow travelers in this high, secret world. Sometimes, especially on clear mornings after rain has washed the air clean, you can see for miles. You can see the green hills beyond the city, the promise of a different world. A world of fields and trees that feels impossibly distant. These moments are brief, stolen interludes in your long day of labour. Mr. Grimes's impatient shouts inevitably pull you back to the task at hand. You must finish brushing the flue. You must descend back into the darkness. You must move on to the next house, the next chimney. But these glimpses of the rooftop world leave a residue in your mind. They are small, precious diamonds of beauty found in the deepest, dirtiest mine. They are proof that even in a life defined by darkness and suffering, there can be moments of unexpected perspective, of quiet, solitary wonder. You learn to hoard these moments, to carry the memory of the vast sky and the rolling sea of rooftops with you as you descend back into the narrow, suffocating confines of the flues. It is a small internal act of rebellion. Your body may belong to Mr. Grimes, your days may be consumed by soot and labour, but these high, quiet moments belong only to you. You realise that your bleak existence has granted you access to a secret beauty, a perspective on the city that the wealthy homeowners in their drawing rooms below will never know. They see only the smoke rising from their chimneys. You have seen the world from the dragon's back. Another year turns. You are 8 now, perhaps 9. The relentless rhythm of the daily grind has become the only life you know. Your body is still small, still wiry enough for the narrowest flues, but it is a body marked by the trade. Your hands are permanently calloused. Your knees and elbows are landscapes of old scars under the ever-present layer of grime, and the sweep's cough has become your constant, unwelcome companion. You are surviving, but survival has a cost, and you see the price being paid day by day in the diminishing form of Jack. Jack is 13 now, maybe 14, an old man in the brutal lifespan of a climbing boy. The change has been gradual, almost imperceptible at first, but now it is undeniable. He is growing. His shoulders are broadening, his limbs lengthening. The easy agility he once possessed in the flues is gone, replaced by a clumsy, awkward struggle. You hear him grunt and curse inside the chimneys now. Sounds of effort and frustration you never heard before. More and more often, he comes down having failed to reach the very top of a particularly narrow flue, earning a cuff and a curse from Mr. Grimes. But it is not just his size, it is the cough. The deep, rattling sickness in his lungs, which was once just a persistent annoyance, has become a debilitating force. It racks his thin body with a terrible violence, leaving him breathless and weak. You hear him coughing not just at night in the cellar, but during the climbs, the sound echoing strangely down the dark passages, sometimes followed by a terrifying silence, that makes your own heart freeze until you hear him move again. Mr. Grimes sees all of this, not with sympathy, but with the cold, appraising eye of a master craftsman whose favourite tool is beginning to wear out. Jack's slowing pace, his failed climbs, his worsening cough. These are not misfortunes, they are inefficiencies. They are costing Mr. Grimes time, and therefore money. The master sweep's impatience grows with every passing week. The gruff, impersonal commands he gives Jack become sharper, laced with a new, cruel edge. "Get a move on, ye lazy slug." He shouts up a flue where Jack is struggling. "Do you think I feed ye for charity?" He begins assigning Jack fewer climbs, giving the more difficult, narrower flues exclusively to you, while Jack is relegated to brushing out the larger, easier hearths or simply carrying the soot sacks. You see the shame and the fear in Jack's eyes. He knows what is happening. He has seen other boys grow too big, get too sick. He knows the fate that awaits him. He tries to work harder, to climb faster, to suppress the cough that betrays his weakness. But it is a losing battle. His body is betraying him. The final straw comes on a cold, wet morning in a large house near the Inns of Court. The chimney is old, complex, and known to be difficult. Mr. Grimes, perhaps as a final test, orders Jack to climb it. You watch him approach the dark opening, his usual cynical swagger gone, replaced by a visible, trembling reluctance. He forces himself in. You wait below, listening. You hear the familiar scraping sounds, but they are slower, more laboured than usual. Then you hear the coughing start, a terrible, tearing spasm echoing down the flue. It goes on, a sound of pure, helpless agony. Then, silence. "Jack?" Mr. Grimes calls up, his voice sharp with annoyance. "What's the delay?" There is no answer. "Blast it all, boy," Grimes roars. "Are ye stuck again?" A weak voice floats down. "Can't breathe, master," followed by another racking cough. Mr. Grimes lets out a string of curses. He knows what this means. Jack is not just stuck, he is incapacitated. He orders you up an adjacent, wider flue. You climb quickly, your own small body a stark contrast to Jack's failing one. You reach the point where the flues connect near the top and manage, with difficulty, to help the older boy down, half carrying, half dragging his weak, trembling body back to the hearth. Jack collapses on the floor, covered in soot, gasping for breath, his face pale and clammy. Mr. Grimes looks down at him, not with concern, but with a final, cold, disgusted assessment. The tool is broken. It is time to discard it. He doesn't shout. He doesn't strike him. His dismissal is colder, more brutal than any blow. He simply turns to the housekeeper who is watching with wide, horrified eyes. "This one's no use anymore," Grimes says, gesturing to Jack with his thumb, "too big, and sick besides. Send I am back to the parish. They can find some other use for I am, or let I am starve. I'm done with I am." He turns to you. "Tom, gather the tools. We're leaving." You watch, frozen, as Mr. Grimes walks out, leaving Jack alone on the floor. You watch as the housekeeper, her face a mixture of pity and revulsion, calls for 2 footmen to carry the coughing, weeping boy out of the house like a sack of refuse. You stand there, the tools heavy in your hands, and a cold, absolute certainty settles into your small heart. This is your future, your value to Mr. Grimes, your very right to food and shelter, is tied entirely to your ability to fit into these dark, narrow spaces, to perform this dangerous, body-breaking work. The moment you grow too big, the moment your lungs finally surrender to the soot, you too will be discarded. Jack, your only companion, your cynical guide, is gone, and his departure is a grim prophecy of your own inevitable obsolescence. 1,780 seconds. You are 10 years old now, maybe 11, or perhaps 12. Time is a difficult thing to measure in a life lived between the darkness of the flue and the grey twilight of the cellar. Jack is gone, a ghost swallowed by the parish workhouse system, or perhaps already by the graveyard. You are now the senior apprentice, the only apprentice. Mr. Grimes has hired a new, smaller boy, even younger than you were when you started, but he is still too green, too terrified to be truly useful. The burden of the most difficult climbs, the narrowest flues, falls primarily on you. You are growing, though slowly, stunted perhaps by the poor food and the constant unnatural labour. But you are still small enough, still useful. Your body has become a machine, adapted to the brutal demands of the trade. The scrapes and bruises heal faster. The fear of getting stuck is still present, but it is a dull ache now, not a sharp panic. Even the cough has become a familiar, almost comforting rhythm, the constant clearing of your lungs, a sign that you are still breathing. You have survived. You have become a seasoned climbing boy. But the soot, your constant, intimate companion, has been waging a different kind of war against you, a silent, insidious campaign fought not in the flue, but deep within your own flesh. It begins subtly, an itch, a persistent, maddening itch in the creases of your skin, particularly in the groin, where the rough, soot-saturated fabric of your trousers rubs constantly as you climb, wedging yourself into the narrow passages. At first, you dismiss it. It is just another irritation in a life filled with them. You scratch at it through your clothes, trying to find relief, but the itching doesn't stop, and then you notice the sores. Small raised bumps, like warts, that appear on the delicate skin of your scrotum. They are ugly, embarrassing, and they refuse to heal. You try to keep them clean, using your precious water ration to wash in the cold cellar, but the soot is everywhere, a constant, greasy contamination. You are ashamed. You hide them from Mr. Grimes, terrified that any sign of weakness, any ailment, will mark you as damaged goods, ready to be discarded like Jack. Weeks turn into months. Most of the sores remain small, irritating bumps. But one begins to change. It grows larger, harder, the skin around it turning an angry red. It begins to weep, a thin, foul-smelling discharge that stains your already filthy trousers. And it begins to hurt. Not just an itch, but a deep, gnawing ache that pulses with a life of its own. You know, with a cold, sinking dread that this is not a simple sore, this is something else. Something new and terrible is growing on you, a part of the chimney's darkness that has taken root in your own body. You do not know its name. You do not know that just a few years earlier, in 1775, a London surgeon named Percival Pott, a man whose patients included many young chimney sweeps suffering from exactly these symptoms, made a revolutionary discovery. He was the first doctor in history to connect a specific occupation directly to a specific type of cancer. He called it the chimney sweeper's cancer, a brutal squamous cell carcinoma caused by the constant irritation and the potent carcinogenic toxins within the coal soot lodging deep in the folds of the skin. He wrote papers about it, pleading for better hygiene for the boys, for an end to the practice of sending them up naked. But you know none of this scientific detail. You only know the whispers you have heard among the older sweeps, the hushed talk of the soot-wart, the disease that eats a man from the inside out. You have seen older men, retired sweeps, their bodies twisted with pain, their faces grey with sickness. You know this is the ultimate, inescapable fate that awaits so many in your trade. The knowledge is a new kind of terror, far worse than the fear of getting stuck or burned. Those are quick dangers, moments of sharp, clean panic. This is a slow, creeping horror, an invisible enemy growing within you. You feel profoundly, utterly betrayed by your own body. You face a terrible choice. To reveal your ailment to Mr. Grimes would be professional suicide. He would discard you instantly, a flawed tool, leaving you to the mercy of the parish or the slow, agonizing death of the disease. To hide it, to continue climbing, is to allow the sickness to grow, to fester in the darkness. You must choose between immediate abandonment and a slow, internal decay. That night, as you try to find a comfortable position on your bed of soot sacks, the dull, aching throb from the growth is a constant reminder. The chimney could trap your body, the fire could burn your skin, but the soot, the very substance of your trade, is poisoning you from within, planting its black seed in your flesh. You are only a child, but you are already carrying your own death warrant inside you. You are cleaning the hearth in the study of a wealthy gentleman's house, waiting for Mr. Grimes to collect the payment. The master of the house is engaged in conversation with another visitor, their voices a low murmur from the adjacent room. Usually, you pay no attention to the talk of your betters. Their world is as distant and irrelevant as the moon. But today, a few words drift through the open doorway that catch your ear. Utterly barbaric, the visitor is saying, his voice filled with a passionate indignation. Using children of 5 and 6 years old, Hanway is right. It is a stain upon our Christian nation. Jonas Hanway. You have heard the name whispered before, sometimes with respect, sometimes with derision, among the master sweeps. He is a wealthy merchant, known for carrying a strange contraption called an umbrella to shield himself from the rain, but he is also known for his tireless, and often unpopular, campaigns for social reform. One of his campaigns is against the use of climbing boys. The master of the house sighs. Hanway means well, of course, he replies, his voice more cautious. But the reality is, sir, that these modern chimneys, with their narrow flues and sharp bends, well, someone must clean them. And the masters swear only a small boy can do it. Then let the builders learn to build better chimneys, the visitor retorts. Or let the masters use brushes on long poles. I have seen the pamphlets from the society. They claim it is possible. You pause in your work, listening intently. Pamphlets? A society? You have seen scraps of printed paper in the streets, but the idea that someone, somewhere, is writing about you, about your life, about the darkness of the flu, is a strange and startling thought. Later that week, while waiting for Mr. Grimes outside a print shop, you see it. Tacked to a notice board is a simple, roughly printed broadsheet. At the top, in large, stark letters, it reads, "The Chimney Sweeper's Friend and Climbing Boy's Advocate." Below it is a crude woodcut image of a small, soot-stained boy looking up pleadingly from a chimney pot. And beneath that, lines of text you cannot fully read, but you can make out the words cruelty, suffering, and reform. Someone cares. Someone is trying to change the world. The knowledge is a tiny, fragile seed planted in the barren ground of your mind. It does not change your immediate reality. Mr. Grimes still drives you relentlessly. The chimneys are still dark and dangerous. The soot still fills your lungs. But the thought that this life might not be the only possible reality, that there are people in the great world outside who see it as wrong, is a profound and dizzying concept. You think of a poem you once heard a man reciting in a public house. Lines someone said were written by a strange artist named William Blake. He spoke of sweeps crying, "Weep, weep," in notes of woe, locked up in coffins of black. At the time, the words were just sounds. Now they echo in your mind with a new, terrible resonance. Someone else has seen the coffin. Someone else has heard the weeping. But the resistance to change is immense. You hear Mr. Grimes complaining bitterly with other master sweeps about these meddling do-gooders who understand nothing of the trade. "They'll put us all out of business," he grumbles. "And what'll happen to the boys then, eh? Starve in the gutter, that's what." You see the fear in his eyes, the fear of losing his livelihood, and you see the indifference in the faces of most homeowners who simply want their chimneys cleaned cheaply and efficiently and prefer not to think too much about the small black creature who does the work. You lie on your soot sacks that night, the words cruelty, suffering, and reform echoing in your thoughts. The idea of a different life, a life without the flu, is almost too vast, too impossible to imagine. You know, with a child's weary cynicism, that such changes come slowly, if they come at all. They will likely not come in time for you, but the knowledge that someone is fighting, that someone believes your life is worth more than a few shillings earned by your master, is a distant, almost imperceptible glimmer of light at the end of a long, dark tunnel. The entrenched economic necessity of your labor feels like an immovable mountain, but the small, nascent voice of social conscience is a seed that, once planted, might one day grow strong enough to move it. The faint whispers of reform you overheard, the pamphlets you glimpsed, these were just the first hesitant breaths of a battle that would rage for decades after your own short, soot-stained life likely ended. The wheels of social change grind slowly, especially when measured against the lifespan of a climbing boy. The world that saw your suffering as a necessary, if unpleasant, part of its economic engine would not be easily convinced to change its ways. The early efforts, born from the horrified conscience of men like Jonas Hanway in your own time, did bear some fruit, but it was bitter and easily ignored. Parliament did pass Chimney Sweepers Acts, laws intended to regulate the trade, setting minimum ages for apprentices and requiring masters to provide adequate clothing and washing facilities, but these early laws were toothless. There were few inspectors, and the fines for breaking the law were so small that masters like Mr. Grimes simply paid them as a cost of doing business, if they were ever caught at all. The economic necessity of cheap chimney cleaning, and the deeply ingrained belief that only a small boy could navigate the narrow, winding flues of old houses, created a powerful inertia that resisted change. For generations, the arguments remained the same. Master sweeps protested that banning climbing boys would put them out of business. Builders resisted calls to construct chimneys with wider, straighter flues. Homeowners complained about the potential increase in the cost of cleaning. Your small, expendable bodies remained the cheapest, most efficient solution. The true change, when it finally began to gather force, came not just from moral outrage, but from a combination of determined social reformers and practical, technological innovation. In the next century, the 19th century, a new generation of reformers, led by the tireless and influential Lord Shaftesbury, took up the cause with renewed vigour. They gathered horrifying testimonies from former sweeps, documenting the burns, the deformities, the cancers, and the countless deaths from falls and suffocation. They brought these stories out of the shadows and into the drawing rooms and parliamentary chambers of the nation. Poets and writers continued to prick the public conscience. Stories and verses, descendants of Blake's cries of woe, depicted the climbing boy as a symbol of national shame. But perhaps the most crucial development was a simple, practical invention. In the early 1800s, a man named Joseph Glass perfected a system of mechanical brushes made of whalebone or cane, fitted onto long, flexible rods that could be pushed up from the hearth or down from the rooftop. This invention directly challenged the master sweep's central argument. It proved that chimneys could be cleaned effectively without sending a small child into the darkness. Even with this technological solution, the resistance continued. Master sweeps argued the brushes couldn't handle complex bends. Homeowners resisted the slightly higher cost. But the moral argument, now combined with a viable alternative, became increasingly difficult to ignore. Lord Shaftesbury and his allies pushed bill after bill through Parliament, each one slightly stronger than the last, gradually tightening the regulations, increasing the penalties, and funding inspectors. The final, effective legislation came only in the mid-19th century. Laws were passed that not only forbade the apprenticing of young children, but, crucially, made it illegal to send anyone up a chimney to clean it. Enforcement was finally taken seriously. The age of the climbing boy, after centuries of suffering, was finally, definitively, brought to an end. You, Tom, would likely not live to see this day. Your own story, like Jack's, would probably end quietly, prematurely, in a workhouse infirmary or a pauper's grave, your body consumed by the soot that defined your life. But the seeds of the change that would save future generations were sown in your own time. The slow, difficult process of social reform, the long battle against the inertia of tradition and powerful economic interests, eventually won. The legacy of soot is not just one of suffering and disease, it is also a testament to the slow, painstaking, but ultimately powerful awakening of a society's conscience. The days grow shorter again. Another autumn, another approaching winter. How many seasons have you seen pass from the cellar or the rooftop? You cannot be sure. You are perhaps 13 now, maybe 14. Still small for your age, a fact that has prolonged your usefulness to Mr. Grimes, but the relentless grind has carved its harsh signature onto your small frame. The cough is your constant shadow now. It is no longer just an irritation. It is a deep, tearing force that leaves you breathless and weak, often doubling you over in spasms that feel as if they will shake your very bones loose. Sleep offers little respite. The rattling in your chest is a constant, unwelcome lullaby. You see the concern, mixed with a familiar, weary pity, in Betsy's eyes when she occasionally slips you a forbidden scrap from the kitchen. You hear the impatience in Mr. Grimes's voice growing sharper, more frequent. Slow again, boy? Got lead in your boots? Your body is beginning its final betrayal. The sores that first appeared years ago have not gone away. The one on your groin has grown into a hard, painful lump that makes climbing an agony. You hide it as best you can, binding it with rags, but you know its presence, a secret ticking clock counting down your remaining days of utility. You are losing the race against your own smallness. Soon, you will be too big, too slow, or simply too broken to fit into the narrow darkness. Yet, the routine continues. The pre-dawn awakening, the miles of walking through the cold, damp streets, the endless succession of flues. Each climb now feels like scaling a mountain. Your breath comes in ragged gasps, the familiar acrid taste of soot sharper than ever. Your limbs tremble with exhaustion after only a few ascents. You find yourself pausing more often inside the chimneys, leaning your forehead against the cold, rough brick, gathering the strength for the next upward push. The darkness feels heavier now, the silence more profound. Sometimes, in these moments of exhausted stillness deep within the flue, your mind drifts. You remember the impossible blue of the sky seen from a rooftop after a rain shower. You remember the taste of the warm meat pie Betsy gave you, a fleeting moment of pure, unexpected joy. You remember Jack's rough voice guiding you out when you were stuck, his cynical presence a strange form of camaraderie you now profoundly miss. These memories are like small, polished stones you turn over in your mind, brief flashes of light in the overwhelming darkness. You remember, too, the whispers you overheard, the pamphlets you saw, Hanway, Blake, Reform, words that spoke of a different future, a world where boys like you would not be forced into these coffins of black. It is a comforting thought, a distant star in a dark sky, but it feels like a story from another world, a tale for children who will live in a kinder age. It is not a future you can imagine for yourself. Your future, you know with a quiet, weary certainty, is measured in the decreasing inches you can squeeze through, in the deepening rattle in your chest. One evening, you returned to the cellar later than usual. It was a long, hard day, cleaning the complex, soot-choked chimneys of a great government building near Whitehall. Mr. Grimes was in a particularly foul mood, driving you with threats and curses. You are beyond exhaustion. Your entire body is a single throbbing ache. Your cough tears at you with every breath. You do not even have the strength to eat the crust of bread left on the table. You simply crawl to your corner, to the familiar lumpy embrace of the soot sacks. The cellar is cold, the fire long since dead. The new, younger apprentice Mr. Grimes acquired is already asleep, his small form curled into a tight ball. You lie there in the darkness, listening to the familiar sounds, the drip of water down the wall, the scuttling of rats behind the bricks, the distant, muffled roar of London life filtering down from the world above. You close your eyes, seeking the oblivion of sleep. But sleep does not come easily tonight. The pain in your shoulder from a fall earlier in the day is a sharp, insistent presence. The ache in your groin is a dull, constant throb. And the cough. The cough builds in your chest, a gathering storm. You curl onto your side, pressing your face into the rough, dusty burlap of the sack, trying to stifle the spasm you know is coming. But it is too strong. It rips through you, a violent, tearing cough that leaves you gasping, breathless, a sharp, metallic taste of blood in your mouth. You lie still, utterly spent, listening to the echo of your own weakness in the silent cellar. The darkness seems to press in around you. You think of the chimney you must climb tomorrow morning. You think of its narrowness, its darkness, its suffocating embrace. And for the first time, the thought does not bring fear. It brings only a profound, bone-deep weariness. You close your eyes again. Your small, sensory world narrows to the feel of the rough sack beneath your cheek, the taste of soot and blood in your mouth, the sound of your own ragged breathing, the enduring human spirit, the small flame of defiance that has kept you climbing day after day, is finally burning low. You have fought against the cold, the hunger, the darkness, the indifference of the world. But the relentless assault of the soot, the slow poisoning from within, is a battle you cannot win. Perhaps you will wake tomorrow. Perhaps you will climb again. Or perhaps, like Jack, like so many others before you will simply fade away, a small life consumed and turned to ash by the great smoking machine of the city. As you drift into a fitful, shallow sleep, the last conscious sound you hear is the soft, persistent whisper of your own failing breath. And so, Tom's small life, like the faint embers in a cold hearth, fades into the quiet darkness of the past. His story, a testament to the quiet endurance of forgotten children, is now complete. Let the memory of the soot and the chill of the London morning recede. The narrow flues and the endless climbs can be left behind. Your own long day is over, and the only task remaining is to find warmth and peace in your own safe haven. If this journey into a hidden corner of history helped you find a moment of quiet reflection, a simple like is always appreciated. And if you wish to join us for more stories from the shadows of the past, please consider subscribing. Thank you for listening tonight. May your rest be deep and untroubled. Until our next story, good night.